I'm State Representative Joe Emrick, and we're standing here on the west access to Minsi Lake, and I'm with Fish and Boat Commission Executive Director Tim Schaefer. Tim, first of all, I just want to thank you for coming out this morning.
You bet.
Taking a trip in from Harrisburg.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, you've been highly involved in this project, not only as a newly appointed executive director, but your previous role with the Fish Commission a few years ago.
Yep.
So the lake has been drained. There's a lot of work going on here, and I'd like to see if you could provide us with a little bit of update for the constituents that I serve.
Happy to, yeah. And today we'll have some of our habitat staff here, our engineering staff, who can get into more detail. But a good overview is that we're in the midst of the rebuild project. As you know, Minsi Lake was one of the 25 high-hazard unsafe dams that we've had to remediate in the last 10 years. We were happy to get the funding released for the project with your help and Senator Scavello's. Happy that Governor Wolf helped us to make this happen. And so what we're doing now is doing the actual rebuild. And whenever we work on a dam, what we like to do is to also introduce new fish habitat structures. This lake is a man-made lake. So it doesn't have a lot of natural habitat structures in it. And what you'll see today and what our staff will explain is the sorts of structures that we install that will be great for young fish as they're growing and we repopulate the lake, as well as the older fish once they get to a catchable size.
Correct. Great. And so standing just behind us are a few of those structures. We may see them on the other side of the lake a little bit closer up. So it's a rare opportunity that you actually can put heavy equipment on a lake bed and do some of these significant improvements.
Absolutely. So we have a number of structures that we're installing now. We have some that we'll install after the lake is full that we can essentially push in off of boats into the water. But yeah, this is a really unique opportunity to put the structures in. One thing we like folks to know is where these structures are. We actually mark them with GPS coordinates on our website. So your constituents are going to be able to know where the habitat structures are. They also stick out of the water so they can see that. One thing we also would like to remind people is that what they see, all the vegetation that's here, it's terrific fish habitat. Once we refill the lake, they'll say, what the heck are these bushes and trees sticking out of the lake for? Well, they grew up, and once that material decomposes, it gives a shot of nutrients to the lake and is really the best possible thing to provide a forage base as well as refuge to the fish that are growing back up. And so for the first few years, we'll have catch and release restrictions on the lake just to give it a chance to build back up. We will stock it with fish from our hatchery system, with bluegills, pumpkin seed, crappies, and largemouth bass. Get the lake going again. Right. And then once our fisheries biologists determine that it's healthy enough, we'll get rid of the catch and release restrictions and it'll be back to business as usual.
Great, awesome. And actually you beat me to my second question, which was I've gotten inquiries from people about all the growth on the bed of the lake. And so they're concerned that it's going to become an obstruction, and you're actually saying, just to reinforce the point, that it's a real positive part of regeneration of the fish population and improving the fishing experience for everybody.
It is, and this lake will be better than ever for fishing, people will find in a couple years. They'll decompose, they'll decay, they'll die ultimately, but this is a great way to start things off. I should also note, we talked about the other fish species that we'll stock. Our plan is to put stockable, catchable trout back in here next year. This is a stock trout lake. Obviously, we had to stop stocking them when it was drained, but we have every intention of, once the lake's full, hopefully having people back out here fishing for trout next spring.
Right, and then the trout are the one exception to the catch and release rule. So when you stock trout, people can catch them, keep them, according to Fish and Boat creel limits and size limits.
Absolutely.
So awesome. So one more question. Construction appears to be really going well. And so an estimated timetable, we know everything is dependent on weather and many other things that sometimes are out of our control, but do we have an estimated timetable for completion?
Yeah, I can give you a general estimate of, I know later this fall we expect it to be done and to start refilling in time for next year's fishing and boating season. I'd probably defer to some of our engineers for specifics on that. They can also explain what it is exactly we're doing here with reinforcing the dam and also expanding the spillway capacity.
Yeah, and that'd be great. And we'll get more detail and information from some of the other people a little bit later on in the overview of the lake. So awesome. Thank you so much for your time. We wish you a safe trip back home.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to the 137th.
We couldn't have done it without you.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm standing here with our habitat specialist for Minsi Lake, Ben Page. Ben is going to explain a little bit further what's directly behind us and how this habitat improvement improves the experience for anglers and the fish in general.
Yep. So we're working on what we call a large-scale fish habitat project. Working with heavy machinery, PA Fish and Boat Commission construction crew and habitat staff working together on the bottom of Minsi Lake. And ideally, for fish habitat cover, we add a lot of wood and rock, so different structure types, not only to benefit the fish, but also the anglers. So in the way of benefiting the fish populations here at Minsi Lake, if you're a small fish in the lake and you're seeking out cover, you may use the wood or the rock to find cover from predators. If you're a larger game fish, you may use the structures to actually forage, find sites where those fish can find food. To benefit the anglers, we put all this into maps, which are available on our Fish and Boat Commission website, with exact GPS waypoints. Another part of the project where we're standing right now, in about the center of the dam breast here at Minsi Lake, we also have shoreline stabilization structures. So not only to improve water quality, but also fish habitat and also angler access. Where we're standing right now is a great place to bring your family to fish from shore right here at Minsi Lake.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the viewers will be able to see this, but there are some numerous outcroppings that are set up, and they will provide excellent habitat and a place for you to bring your family, your lawn chairs, have a nice opportunity to fish right from shore, and those structures are not very far from where we're standing, actually. Now, many of them appear to be vertical, and those will be coming just out of the top of the water for boat safety and for anglers to try and avoid losing their lures and bait. But what the viewers may not be able to see, and you were explaining at the other end, there are some of those beams that run parallel down at the bottom. Can you explain why?
Yeah. So the post clusters, the top 6 inches to about a foot, will be out of water so that folks can see them. You want to cast close to them, but not right on top of them. Right. You may lose a little bit of your tackle. But ideally, that's where the fish are. Right. They're in that habitat cover, and that's why we put these in. Largemouth bass and bluegill in particular really dial in on horizontal cover. There's been multiple, scientific studies that show that just simple overhead cover. It might be a log, it might be a tree in the water. So we add horizontal posts to the post clusters behind us.
Great. And in addition to what we see here, in the future there are going to be built what are called porcupine boxes. So can you explain kind of what those are and when they may be put in?
Sure. So currently we're in phase 1. So we're working with heavy machinery and construction crews, where phase 2 will be when we have Minsi Lake refilled. We'll bring our habitat boats out, and we'll be working with volunteers to place those structures. So we have porcupine cribs, or a coarse brush structure that go in the deeper parts of the lake, and then we also have turtle basking platforms. Okay, so those have been built with some of the local youth here in Northampton County, and those will be placed with our PFBC fish habitat boats.
Great, and that's after the lake is full and fishing is resumed. And we explained with Executive Director Schaefer about the catch and release part, and except for trout. So those improvements will be done. Many of those things are being done by the Junior Conservation School here in Northampton County. We're hoping to maybe get some of the scouts involved to help put those together, earn some badges. And all the material, as was mentioned earlier, is actually locally purchased. So that's something else people may have a question about, and we appreciate that as well for supporting the local economy, in addition to improving an awesome lake. Yeah. So, all right, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your expertise and coming out today. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm with Paul Urbanik. He is the Director of Engineering for the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission. And Paul, thanks for coming out today, first of all. Directly behind us, as the viewers can see, is actually construction that is being done on the new spillway here at Minsi Lake. On the very edge of, actually it's not the very edge of the dam, but it is the new spillway is going to be moved about 100 yards west of the old spillway. So I think people would be interested in seeing that. If and when they come up and the construction's complete, it looks a little different. We were just talking, you shared with me some information that I think would be interesting to people, and that is This spillway, this dam at Minsi Lake is the longest dam of any lake under the Fish and Boat Commission's authority. And how long is that dam?
That's correct. The dam's about 3,300 feet in length. So it's one of the longest the Fish Commission owns. It ranges about 25 feet high up to, 2 feet high.
Yeah, and so it goes from where we're standing on the east part of the lake all the way, as you can kind of see behind us, back to the west parking lot. So that is an extensive dam project. So I think people will appreciate how much work is being done. So where are they in the construction process?
Right now, the contractor is KC Construction Company. They are about 50% complete. They're well ahead of schedule, and we're still on track to be complete this fall. And then if everything goes as planned with the refill, we should be able to stock next spring.
So one question I hear a lot about from constituents is the issue of dredging. And a lot of people would like to see the lake dredged, but from my conversations with many members of the Fish and Boat Commission, it's probably not something that's feasible here. Can you tell me more about that?
Sure. So some of the problems with dredging, I just want to say problems, is financially it's expensive to do. And another issue is there just isn't much sediment here at Minsi Lake. You can tell by surveys that were done when we built the lake, then compare them to surveys that are done now, that there isn't a whole lot of accumulated sediment throughout the basin.
Right. I think a lot of people think there is, but there isn't. One of the issues that, minor issues that they ran into is they're putting in some of the habitat improvements we've seen earlier in the video. They try and drill 2 feet down to secure them. And in some of the parts of the lake, they actually can only get about a foot and they hit bedrock.
Sure, yeah, that's just a clear indicator that bedrock is close by and there isn't a whole lot of sediment to be removed.
Okay, and that's great to know, and hopefully that's answers some of the questions for our fishermen and women. As viewers are going to see, we just had a pretty awesome experience that most people don't get to enjoy.
Yeah.
Just before we went on camera, there was a bald eagle that flew right behind us across the lake, and that was pretty awesome.
We'll call that a sign.
That's correct. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it, and keep up the good work.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm State Representative Joe Emrick. So this is part of my district, the northernmost part, and I want to thank you guys for coming out today, getting a chance to see the lake as they improve it, for all your work with the habitat improvements, both that you've done already and some of the stuff you're going to do in the future. Just want to let you guys know we do a lot of stuff also to help support the Junior Conservation School, from Northampton County Youth Field Day at Stockertown Rod and Gun Club to the Whitetail Classic. Have you guys been to any of those events? I'm sure you have. Yep, they're pretty awesome. And there's no greater use of your time than being in the outdoors. It is awesome. I grew up just a few miles right down the road from here. So I was born and raised right in this area. Spent many, many days at Minsi Lake fishing as a little kid, pedaling my bike up here. And it's been my boyhood home growing up here. So if you guys have any questions for me, we'll be happy to answer them at some point. And thank you for all that you guys do. Thank you to Tyler and everybody who's part of the organization. And we appreciate all your help. And I know the Friends of Minsi Lake does as well. So thank you very much for coming out today, and I hope you enjoy the experience.